I love your
Okay.
hair, by the way. It's always
Oh,
gorgeous. I wish.
one. I
Okay.
I love your background. So
Oh, thank you.
thank you for letting me interview you. Who knows if I know what I'm doing or not. But let's see. So the first question I wanted to ask you about was what's behind you. I know you've created things since that piece, but like, what are your latest projects and what is the inspiration behind them?
So what's behind me is called Flower Power. And you, Joslyn, have the original of this piece.
Amy.
And what inspired me was our convention part about flowers. And I was just so inspired by, how beautiful flowers are. It takes more energy for them to be beautiful than for us to use them as an energy source. So that's my inspiration. I have a brown thumb, opposite of a green thumb, but I love looking at nature, flowers. One of my favorite movies is The Secret Garden,
Mine
1992.
too.
Really? Oh
Oh,
my goodness.
yeah.
I listened to the
Exact
soundtrack.
thing.
I listened to
Oh,
the soundtrack while I was doing that, and I listened to Michael Jackson's "Liberian Girl" while I was doing that picture too. So,
I see the fusion.
yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
So those are a few of my inspirations. My mom's an inspiration. Nature, anything flowery and kind of whimsical and a little quirky. It's pretty much it.
Did you make your earring?
My mom did. She also
Oh,
makes jewelry. She paints. She makes
beautiful.
jewelry. Thank you. They have a little flower on the back.
Wow. Now, did she make those before or after the beautiful girl behind you?
She made them before.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
That's fitting. You are her child. So, because it definitely, like, your work looks similar.
Yeah, it does. It really does. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, she has a
So
big
that's,
influence on, she's the reason I started drawing. I just kind
how
of,
old are you?
I was like 9 and I started
Really?
drawing. Yep.
I
Cartoons.
was gonna say like I was 3. I thought you were gonna say 3. 9. You were up there when you started drawing. Like you are you sure you didn't start sooner and you just started taking it seriously at 9? Did you
Um,
literally start at 9?
I just started at 9. I had my first drawing. My mom has it at her house. And it's of like somebody from Ghostbusters. Don't judge me. And so
No judgment here. I watched it too, all the things.
it,
Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
all of that stuff. So yeah, I just started and picked it up, loved it. I wanted to be an animator or a cartoonist when I was a kid, and I just drew cartoons. It wasn't until I was a teenager that I started drawing like realism or portraits and things like that.
Okay. I just for some reason I feel like you were drawing before you were 9, like, and maybe you just weren't taking it like you didn't really think you were doing anything, but you were. You had to have drawn something before 9.
You would think so. What was I doing I was outside doing stuff. I didn't draw. I just played video games and we went camping and
That makes how like how good your art is even more amazing.
oh, thanks, Joss.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm a huge fan, clearly. So, do you think that artists are like more sensitive than most people or the average person?
I think they're more sensitive. I wouldn't say more sensitive. I think they're maybe more like they might just be more in tuned with um, how things work and why they
Okay,
work. They just might be more curious.
I
Um,
like.
I would say that anybody who is creative is an artist. So you don't necessarily have to do fine art or draw. You could be a writer and be an artist. You could be a construction worker and be an artist. There's an art to everything. Um, and we're so visual as humans. it just comes off that artist or artist. But I think we just see the world in more of a creative way. So there's a curiosity there. And maybe that's where perception of sensitivity comes from, because I can only speak for myself. I know I'm sensitive. I'm sensitive about my art because it's kind of
Erica Badu.
I don't really express myself, like my deep feelings, a lot. So I put those feelings in my art, and that's what started it as a child, pretty much.
Wow. I like that idea of using the term creative as opposed to like artist, because you automatically think, like you said, of what's behind you as opposed to the other art forms or just the art in everyday life, you know, making that beautiful. That's cool. And the part of the distinction between being in tune versus sensitive, because I do think sensitive can have somewhat negative connotation. But saying that creative people are a little bit more in tune has, not that sensitive is a bad thing, but it can easily be synonymous with weak, you know?
Yeah, or overly, weak. Like, you can't take this. And it's like, we all live in this crazy world. We all are here, and nobody's weak because we all have to live every single day, in this.
Surviving is like a huge thing. I consider what I'll say is like I'll usually say I'm very sensitive and that like I feel it all, but I'm not a crier. So like while I'm having all my feelings, I'm like they're internal and usually my face is not giving it away. So
Oh wow, okay. I wish I had that ability. It's written
I
all over.
admire people who are free with their emotions. I don't know who told me I couldn't cry. But I love people who are like free with their emotions. Like I think they're really brave because there is a level of vulnerability,
Yeah.
you know, and a level I think of comfort in your own with your own vulnerability being public. That yeah.
There's a level of judgment there, and it goes along with, to me, being an artist. Maybe that's why um, the question, or maybe that's why artists might be synonymous with being sensitive, because there is a level of judgment that comes every time you show your art to someone, be it your mom, your dad, your teacher, your friend, Instagram, whatever. People,
Your Instagram, the likes.
always, I mean, everybody's always going to have something to say about something, so um, there's always a level of judgment that comes with it, good or bad. So you got to just put yourself out there, like.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree. So the next thing I wanted to ask, well, we kind of covered it. Do you, well, I ask anyways, do you think that creative people who are more in tune, that is a pro in life or a con in life in general?
Ooh, I think it's a double-edged sword, because I know that I'm highly, like, I used to be highly, I guess, I don't want to say thin-skinned, but I wore my heart on my sleeve a lot more. And that can be good, but just living in the world that we live in, you kind of have to buck up and toughen up. Even, I've seen interviews of older ones, and they're usually British, and they usually say the term buck up. You just have to kind of stiffen up and keep calm and carry on. So you can't really take everything to heart. And sometimes um, you just have to do things for yourself. And I'm not saying that, oh, so many people look at my art and are critiquing it, because, I mean, yeah. So
You don't know. You don't know who's looking at your art, honestly.
True.
Because you're on social media and your art is there and your account is public. So we don't know who's looking at it. Yeah.
I think with me personally, I have to not compare myself to other artists. That gets hard. And that's where kind of like the sensitivity also comes in. You're just like, oh, but they've been doing it less time than me and they're so much better, or, you know, their style is so much more sleek. You know, it's like the art is an extension of you. And so you are who you are, period. You can't, you know, if I wanted to be a blonde-eyed, blue-eyed girl with blonde hair, it's not gonna happen, okay? It's just not
Ever.
gonna
Never ever.
I don't want to be a blonde hair, blue eyed girl, but I'm just saying an example. I am who I am, and I have to kind of embrace my style, embrace
Yeah.
myself. I might even like your hair and want it, but it's not happening, right? So I just kind of
Well,
have
it
to embrace
could,
it.
it could happen.
I
Here is one
tried.
of those things.
It's not happening.
It can happen. Trust. We'll talk after. But it's wild to hear you say, to speak. It's interesting that the work behind you, like that literally came from you, and that you would question your ability. But I guess that's so human, and just so, I think there's beauty in it in a way, because in order for you to even compare yourself, you're seeing value. I mean, obviously we can't compare ourselves to others, or we'll be miserable.
Right. Yeah.
But the, if you look at it in a different way, you're not you're not at a place, or you're a person. You're not the type of person who has to trash other people's artwork to make yourself feel good. You can look at it and see their talent and not be reduced by it,
Yeah.
because in a way it just makes you go harder. Because I mean, I'm looking at your leaves, they're so gorgeous. And it's just, they're just so, just the leaves, not even going to her, just looking at the leaves themselves, like, look at how intricate they are, and the colors. It's just really interesting that even people who are really talented organically still think like, is my style as polished, or is my, it's just,
Yep.
it's kind of cool to know that you can do that and still have like those um, self-doubts that
Yeah.
people have in life. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So are you like a spontaneous creative person, or do you stick to a schedule? Like, what is?
Um, I'm definitely spontaneous, and so I have to stick to a schedule.
Mhm.
That's because I might not be feeling it one day, but I have to do it anyway in order to get better. So I try to draw just one picture every day. Um,
Really?
I try to do it every day because when you do something every day, you form a muscle memory, and and your hands. When I was a kid, I drew all the time, so I didn't really have to think about it. But as an adult, like I started to overthink things when I started drawing again. And when you do it every day, you kind of just learn to be uncomfortable. You learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. You learn to appreciate the ugly stages in the beginning of the art. Um, you learn to kind of be a kid again, to me, because you learn to be satisfied with something that's a work in progress instead of this pretty thing that you have at the end. And so it's a patient process, and I think doing it every day kind of teaches you those qualities.
Oh, I love that. And it's like so many points could be symbolic and just applied to life. The ugly stages, and just, I love a pretty conclusion, or like they lived happily ever after, or, like that final work. But the ugly part is like, ooh,
What
why
is
must, why does it ever have to be ugly?
right?
Yeah.
Actually, here's a fun fact about the flower power painting. I was on the phone with my friend Jasmine. Thanks, Jasmine. And we were talking, and I started her face, and then I was like, "Oh crap! I didn't blend it well, so it looked really weird." And she was like, "It's okay if it looks like that. Don't what did she say? Van Gogh it, cut off your ear. Like just keep
Oh,
going." like improvise. And so that's what I did. I improvised. It was her cheek right there that I improvised. That's why it's a patch of color, because it was like, what is this? So I had,
Fun fact.
yeah.
When I first saw that on your Instagram, that was like the part that just mesmerized me. Like I was in your DMs, I was texting you, like, and it was that part of her face that I lingered. Yeah, I lingered. It was just like, what? I've never seen anything like that before. It's just so interesting and beautiful. And just like to the fact that it came from an imperfection in your work, the part that I loved the most. Isn't that crazy?
That is very odd. I mean, it's crazy because the whole thing came from imperfection. Look, the flower, okay, it looked like she was a Buddhist at first because this flower was a lotus and it looked like she was meditating. So I was like, well, let's make this non-denominational. Let's just make her a flower girl. And so I had to get rid of the lotus center and make it like a flower center. And then I had to add flowers to it and more leaves. And then I had to add the red part, like the whole thing. And then I added the background. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so pale. Then I got out my colored pencils and then I was like, let me just add some color. So the whole thing was a one big improvisation. And that's what's so hilarious about it. Like that thing got over 500 likes on my mom's Facebook page. And I was discussing this with a friend and she said, it's because in life we improvise, we make mistakes, we cover over them, and we make it something more beautiful. And I think that speaks to a lot of people, maybe in this piece, subconsciously. I'm not sure, but that's pretty much what the piece was about. It was like, I don't like this, but I'm not gonna throw it out. I'm gonna improvise and make it better.
So you completed it, and you said, I don't really like this, but I'm gonna. Really?
When I completed it, I was like, what the heck is this?
Really?
I said,
so was that, what was when you, that's such a, okay, was that in a pot, like, it is good type of way, or was it like a type of way?
Like a kind of way.
Really?
Like, yeah, okay, so let me tell you a little background. So I'm a graphic designer,
Okay.
and I love straight lines. I don't, really like doing things outside the lines. I don't like imperfections. I like things to be smooth and like linear, right? And when I draw, that's not what comes out of me. So it's like this conflict that I have internally. It's like the whatever part of me is like, I don't care how linear you think you are, but you're not. You're gonna paint outside the lines and you're gonna do this. But the computer allows me to be who I wanna be. So
I'm so sorry. We still got a house over here.
That's
the computer allows you to be who you want to be.
Yes, with the graphics, with the lines, with the perfect things in the center, with the rule of thirds. And I'm like, I look at that and I'm like, yeah. But then when I draw something, it's a conflict. There's always, what is that? Consonant, dissonance. There's always that going on, there's like,
okay,
is that the right term? But there's always that conflict. It's like, okay, I want this to be really sleek and streamlined. And then ta-da. And I'm like, okay. So yeah. So that's what I meant about embracing my style.
Okay. Well, whatever it is, girl, it's beautiful.
Thank you. And I have embraced it. That reminds me of the Secret Garden or something I would have did, as a child. Very whimsical and like naive, and I have grown to love it because I was like, okay, what's really going on here? But I really do love it.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. So working with free Zoom, I'm wondering like what time did we start?
Oh yeah. What time is it gonna? It should tell us like we started at 2. It's 2:25.
Okay. We only have 3 more questions.
Okay.
So, what what would you say have been your challenges? What have been your challenges?
Um, my
I mean,
challenge,
I feel like we kind of talked about it. That's why I'm stuttering. Like,
yeah. I'd say, you know, embracing my own style, being who I am instead of who I think I am, when it comes to art. And I think that's life as well.
yeah.
Um, let's see, that's one challenge. Not comparing myself to others.
Mhm.
Um, so definitely another challenge. And just um, staying creative. A lot of people, I think, have a idea that creativity is this thing that people who are creative can just tap into. It's like a deep well with water that's a million feet deep, and it's not like that at all. It's like anything else that you practice. You know,
Mhm.
it's like if you have a garden, then you have to go and you have to do things to the garden, and you have to work the garden whether you feel like it or not, because if you don't work the garden, it's going to get weeds and it's going to choke the plants and it's going to be ugly. And it's the same thing with creativity. I worked at medical school for 7 years, and there was an aspect of creativity to my job, not only just in the art aspect but in the project management aspect and the communication aspect. But it was a challenge because I was in a office that was gray, and
Mhm.
I worked on a campus. So I would go outside on my lunch break and walk because I needed that external stimulation to get creative. It just
Mhm.
doesn't come from nowhere. And I think another challenge is having too much freedom, um, with your medium or with what you want to do. A famous person said this, but I can't remember who. He said that creativity comes from limits, and that's
Mhm.
completely true. There's only 88 keys on a keyboard. There's not an infinite amount of keys. And look at all the pieces and look at all the music you can get from 88 keys. And it's the same thing with creativity. You give yourself limits and you see how you can work within those limits. And that's why you see a lot of people, they only do portraits or they only do animals or they only do landscapes. Look at Bob Ross. I've never seen a person in his photo. Like,
Mhm.
he only did oil landscapes. And when you give yourself those limitations, it allows you to really dig deep and perfect the things that you are good at and perfect the things that you want other people to see. So I'm always all over the place. So that's another challenge. I'm like, maybe I can do animals. Maybe I can do houses. Maybe I'm like, let me just stick to faces, okay?
I love it.
Call it a day.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me, I watched this TED Talk once and it was saying that you can essentially learn something, become, I feel like proficient is probably a stretch, but in 20 hours. And the speaker was saying that people some kind of way got it confused that it took 10,000 hours to become proficient at something, but 10,000 hours is what's needed for expertise. And only 20 hours, like typically you can pretty much become proficient with something if you dedicate just 20 hours to it. And
Wow.
so when you were talking about narrowing and creating limits for yourself, it just made me think like, okay, like that's how you become an expert in
That
it
is.
as a, yeah. So
Because you'll
that's
know how
pretty
to do a lot of stuff badly, if you don't do that. Just
okay. You want to be a master of one as opposed to a jack of all trades. What is it?
yes.
What's that? Is it jack of all trades, master of none? Yeah, I did
Yeah.
that right.
Master of none.
Right on my
Yep, that's it.
You have to be a master of one. So, what would be your advice for aspiring artists so that they can
Um,
like, yeah, do what you're doing
my
regularly?
my biggest piece of advice is to do what you like to do, period. Other people might have ideas for you. They might say you should paint or you should draw or you should paint with oils instead of paint with acrylics, or just do whatever you like to do. Because if you don't and you rely on other people, you're not going to like doing it. So what's the point of doing it in the first place? Do what you like to do. Discover what that is. Try out different mediums. They have like these little art boxes that companies send out with different mediums like paints and oils. And if you're completely starting from scratch, maybe get one of those, sign up for a box. My other thing would be something Van Gogh said, and he said, if you don't think you can do it, do it. And show yourself that, see, I did it. Even if it's just drawing one line and you just prove yourself wrong and you say, see there, I did it.
I can draw a line every day.
There you go. And you would have done something, and that's better than nothing. So I would say don't compare yourself, and don't expect that you're going to create a masterpiece right away, because it takes time to develop your style, to recognize your style, and just don't, listening to others is important, accepting criticisms is important when it's constructive, but just do you. That's what I recommend.
Okay. This was my very first interview. I feel like it went well.
You did an excellent job, Joss. Thank you.
You did an excellent job, Mel. You were a dream to talk to. It just felt like we weren't actually recording.
I know, right? Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for having the idea to do this.
Thank you for being willing, because I don't even know where that came from. I was like, I wish I could interview you. And I was like, but I don't have anywhere to put it. And you were like, you can interview me. We can use Zoom and we can do it. And I was like, okay. And here we are. It's done. It has been, I hate to say it's been accomplished. It feels kind of like blasphemy.
I know, right?
But yeah.
It's a done deal.
Yeah. All of that. So yeah, I guess we will talk soon, probably in real time.
Yes.
And whenever I find the appropriate frame, you'll see her in my background.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Either. I didn't know 9x12 wasn't standard.
Yeah. I didn't either. It's definitely not.
No, it's not, girl. I was like, I thought this was pretty well. I guess it's not standard, but
it's not.
So I guess I'll stop it. I'm so nice to us.
Huh?
For them to let us finish it without